There seems to be a lot of anger going on around these days. We might each call it something different, like I'm not angry, I'm frustrated, or I'm not angry, I'm just irritated, or many other things. We try to soften the word anger with other words, which is okay, but anger is anger, regardless of what you call it. And I wanted to say, first of all, it's a natural God-given emotion, so there's nothing wrong with anger as it is. And secondly, there are healthy ways and unhealthy ways to deal with anger, and the choice is up to you on how you want to deal with it. Hi, I'm Scott. I help people use journaling to help them get more focus and productivity and mindfulness out of their day-to-day life. And today I'd like to talk about a pretty serious topic, and that's anger. And I have a tool or a journaling exercise that can be used to help you cope with anger. It helps me cope with anger, and let's talk about that today. First, before we talk about journaling techniques, let's talk about what anger is. The first thing I want to say is that anger is complex. It's kind of a secondary emotion. Essentially, when we feel an attack on our dignity or on our character or on a relationship that we have a response. It's a survival response, and that mechanism is something you've probably already heard of. It's a fight, flight, or freeze. And anger is very closely related to the fight part of that mechanism. An example of this is if you're in a meeting or you're in a classroom and something happens that kind of attacks your character, your dignity. Maybe someone says something that's flippant or sarcastic, misunderstood. You can feel that anger kind of coming up. You're getting ready to fight. And although it doesn't mean like fight, fisticuffs, it really just kind of means that you're ready to defend yourself. So now that we know what anger is and the things that trigger anger, let's talk about a journaling exercise that will help you cope with anger and even identify those triggers that make you angry. Okay, before we go any further, if you like this content, I would like you to subscribe and push the like button, or smash the like button. That seems to be a popular thing that we're saying these days. So smash the like button. It helps me out. It gives me feedback. Please comment in the comments. That also helps me out. I try to answer every comment, even if it's a day or two later. I try to do the best I can to respond. Secondly, I'd like to connect with you. I've got an Instagram account as well as a Facebook group. Those links are in the description. Please connect with me. Let me know how things are going. I'm so happy to hear from as many people as I've heard from. It's been really encouraging. A lot of people out there journaling. A lot of people not doing it alone, joining in this community, joining in this tribe to journal out what's going on in their day. It's been very helpful. Okay, first thing I want you to do is to do what I used to call getting the lead out. It's actually getting the ink out. Is to just scribble. Just take a section of your page and just really go crazy on it. Write down, one or two words like unmet expectations, and then scribble that out, or idiot, and scribble that out. And just, what you're doing is you're just getting it off your chest. It's the same thing as going in the woods and giving a good scream. Now, once you get some ink on the page, turn the page or even use that same page, and I want you to write what has caused you to feel angry. And I want you to focus on feeling angry, not necessarily that you are angry. Don't identify that you are angry. Identify that you feel angry and separate yourself from the anger. This is a mindfulness technique that is used in meditation too, is to really separate yourself from this emotion. You see it, you observe it, you check it out, you recognize that it does not identify you, but it's actually part of something that you're feeling. Ultimately, this concept will help you cope with anger and even identify it in the future. Your writing might be one sentence, or it might be a paragraph. Last time I did this with my son, he wrote down, "It sucks," and that was his sentence. So I had to kind of encourage him to elaborate a little bit more than just "it sucks." I did understand that he was angry. I don't know if he was necessarily separating himself from his anger, his feeling of feeling angry versus him being angry. But either way, he worked through it. He's actually really good at this. Okay, next thing to do. New page, new section on the same page. I want you to try to identify the trigger that caused you to feel angry. So go back to what we talked about: flight, fight, or freeze. This is a fight response. So there must have been an attack on your character, or an attack on your dignity, or an attack on a relationship you had, or an attack on someone else that you care about. But either way, that anger was triggered by something. So I want you to try to think through that and figure out what triggered that anger. Typically, it's an attack on your character. It made something happen that made you feel foolish or look foolish, and so you got angry over it. That's sometimes the big part of anger. Okay, the last part, which now that you've gotten the let out, you've identified that you are not your anger. You've actually identified that anger is a feeling that was triggered by something. And now that you've identified what triggered your anger, I want you to write down what you could have done better in this situation. So the next time something like this happens, you are able to identify that trigger and remember what could have gone better, what you could have done better in this situation. Okay, now that you've worked through this journaling exercise, I want to talk about the privacy of your journal. And there is a security problem here, that if you're angry at someone or you're angry by someone, and you're working out those feelings on paper, that paper has some permanence to it and may get in the hands of the wrong person. So while you're writing, if you need to use some code word for the person that caused you to be angry, or you need to rip out the page, or whatever you need to do, let's make sure that you're safe. You're being careful with where your journal is. If you do have a sense that your journal will be read by someone that it shouldn't be read by, that you need to take care of that first. That's a kind of a prime directive here, is that be careful of what you're writing. It does have some permanence. Okay, let's recap. This has all been about anger. 1, it's a God-given emotion. Don't be afraid of it. 2, how you deal with it is up to you. There's healthy ways and unhealthy ways. We talked about what anger is, how it is a complex emotion that is based on an attack on your character, your dignity. It is kind of a secondary emotion in that way. And lastly, we've talked about a journaling exercise where you can get the let out. You can write down, how you came to feel angry, how you are not the anger, but you have a feeling of being angry, as well as what triggered that for the next time that you encounter your situation. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.